Hello everyone, this is eFlex and welcome back to another A Producer's Approach video. In this video we're going to be looking at day one song For the Stars. So if you guys have not watched these videos in the past, basically I break these songs down into 3 different parts. I do an intro, backstory section, just giving my personal backstory on the song. After that I do my breakdown analysis section, and then after that I do an outro just summing up my thoughts and opinions. So for today's song, we're going to be doing day one's song For the Stars. And thank you to Pickle Maniac 7 for the recommendation. This, among many other day one songs, I did want to do a breakdown for, but thank you for recommending it in the comment section. So if you guys don't leave comments or haven't seen him in the comment section, feel free to thank him for this song. But so this song, Day One For the Stars, I think this song I heard pretty much when I first started listening to Monstercat. I came in at around the same time this song was released. Not at the exact time of this release date, but I think a little bit after, when like March 9th, 2012. I think a little bit after, maybe like a week or two after, is when I really started listening to a lot more Monstercat songs, and that's kind of I think when I subscribed to them. So my first release that I heard after being subscribed to Monstercat was Tut Tut Child's first song, Mysterious Stranger, and hopefully I'll get to do a video on that. But I believe this song came out a little bit before. I think the Tut Tut Child song came out on March 24th on 2012, so that's really cool. And this album, 006 Embrace, was the first album I heard. So the notable albums on Monstercat are 007 and 018 and some of the others, but I know 007 Solace is like a really huge iconic album. So I actually started following Monstercat previously to when 007 was released, so I listened to a lot of the 007 songs as well when they were released, and hopefully I get to do a lot of breakdowns of those songs. But Day One's a really cool artist. Just a personal backstory for me, I actually messaged him when I first started producing, because around the time I think of end of 2012 2013, like I just started producing, and I just kind of cold called, messaged him on SoundCloud, and it was kind of crazy. I didn't expect for him to respond, and I think for like a good like month or two I just kind of exchanged messages with him, and I was like in such like sticker shock, because to me he was kind of like a low-key celebrity, and back then in my day or so, I was just like, whoa, I'm talking to this like really big producer. Like, man, that's super crazy. Like, I never thought a dude like that would even talk to me, and I hadn't even really made much music yet. I think I only made 1 song, 2 songs. So I was just like, whoa, this is really crazy. And honestly, I don't even remember what the heck I talked to him about, but I think it was just like what music software he used and just different plugins like that. But it was just kind of crazy. So I've been a big fan of him since then, and then he has quite a few other songs that I like that came out after 006, but I believe this is one of his first songs, For the Stars. I could be wrong, but I know one I really like is World's End and White City. Actually, that's 2 songs. So hopefully I get to do breakdowns of those 2 songs. Hieroglyph is really good too, kind of underrated for my personal opinion, but enough with my long tangent and just me rambling. So this is Day One song, For the Stars, and just by viewing in the comment sections, I didn't realize that the Day One, the artist normally at this time, was on the bottom and the name of the song supposed to be at the top. Someone in the comments said that it was reversed, so they said For the Stars made the song Day One, which I thought was really funny. So anyways, we'll get into the breakdown of the song, so let's get it going. right, so basically in the beginning of the song, you kind of hear the piano playing the chord progression. The piano is really has a lot of effects like reverb and delay on it. So you kind of hear the chord progression or the chordal piano playing, and then after that you kind of hear the kind of upper octave layer of that chord of a piano sound. I don't know if it's a different piano sound or the same one, just kind of layered on top playing, and then slowly the kick kind of comes in and it's filtered slowly coming in while the kind of saw wave type sound is slowly coming into the song, and the sound itself, the saw wave sound, starts to sound like sidechain a little bit later from when it starts. So when you first hear it, it's like kind of a full sound, but when the kick becomes more prominent, the sound of that saw wave kind of sidechains. And basically sidechain is this like producer term and technique where when the kick comes in, the you can use a compressor to do this as well, but you can also use different third-party plugins. But basically the kick, when it hits, it will duck the sound that's kind of routed to it. So like if you had that saw wave sound routed to the kind of sidechain channel, it's kind of like its own dedicated channel sometimes, or directed or routed directly to the kick and maybe the snare, then every time the kick and the snare hits, the sound kind of ducks for like a really short second. Sometimes like it's not noticeable, but when it's really exaggerated, you kind of hear that wubbish type sound. So that's kind of what sidechain is in a very basic description of that. There's various different techniques and more elaborate ways of sidechain, but that's probably like the best layman's term description I can give for sidechain, is when the kick and the snare come in, a compressor of some sorts just kind of ducks the sound for a short amount of time, and the ratio in which you have that compressor going will either really make it exaggerated for the effect, or you won't even hear like the ducking at all. But that's just a short explanation of sidechain. And then after that, you kind of hear the saw wave come in, and then you kind of hear the white noise sound coming in. So I believe it's right before the drop that you'll hear now, and we'll get back into it and I'll explain more after that. Alright, so it's pretty cool. The percussion is actually pretty interesting. But just going before that, the build up into this is pretty fast. It's not as exaggerated as some of the other house songs and songs that we've listened to with a really big snare build up. It was kind of just like a kick build up. And also there was an ARP kind of playing, building up into this as well, kind of a higher end pitch sound. And then the white noise kind of comes in, and then the drop kind of happens. So there's no kind of gap in between, of like a gap of air, I guess you would say, to kind of bring that tension. It just kind of builds up and goes. And it's pretty cool. The rhythm in itself is actually kind of like a more double time rhythm, at least in this part of the drop. Whereas, you know, most dubstep songs in this time period, I know that for sure, were kind of in halftime, with the kicks on 1 and snares on 3. So that's definitely a more notable thing to note, I guess, with the song, because it's a little bit ahead of its time with that kind of double time kind of rhythm. So that's interesting. Then you kind of have the saw wave coming in. It's a little more sidechainish, and then you kind of have the ARP playing, but that kind of saw waves type of bass sound is one of the more signature sounds from day one. You kind of really hear that sound shine a little bit more in the future, I think, when you hear his song like Hieroglyph and stuff like that. So that's definitely pretty cool. And it's going to transition into the break here. So other than that, there wasn't anything super notable other than the pacing of the song. So that was really cool. I don't really remember that being in double time, so that's really cool. So let's keep going. You right, so that was pretty much the full first drop. So in between that kind of first part of the drop where it had that double time rhythm, after that there was a break, and then you kind of have that signature day one kind of filtered, vocoded, almost vocal of him saying like we're destined for the stars. He was probably one of the first artists, at least in this time I heard from Monstercat, include like their own vocal sampled vocals in songs, which was, I think, a little more unusual at that time, because a lot of artists that, you know, use their own vocals now and are known for that, like Tristan and Rogue, they at this time were still learning to produce, so they didn't use a lot of their own vocals. I know Day One kind of pioneered that in that sense, but in that break section, he says that there's some white noise, and then it goes into the more 2012 type of dubstep where it's a halftime rhythm. You kind of have that kind of wubbing sound. The bass line sound is very much a Day One sound design sound, so that's definitely for sure. It goes more into the more traditional, and then it kind of has that wubby-ish type of 2012 feeling, which isn't bad. It's just the kind of the sound and the structure of a lot of dubstep within that time, but it's not as, you know, annoying or irritating as some of the other songs that use really high-pitched sounds. So I do appreciate Day One for that. And then it transitions from that kind of wubby section with the art playing to the kind of last part of the drop where it's a little more melodic, where the bass line's playing, rhythm's still kind of more in like a halftime rhythm, but then the piano kind of plays the main melody, which is really cool. And all throughout there's like a lot of pads throughout this whole drop, kind of playing and kind of building up this kind of dreamy space, or maybe space like feeling when you're listening to, you know, a song that sounds like something from outer space. So the style in itself is really cool. Reminds me a lot of the Drop Tower song Solar, where the piano kind of is the main lead. Honestly, this is just my opinion, but this almost is kind of like the precursor of what a lot of Drop Tower style is, where it's slowed down and the piano is kind of the emphasis of the lead sound. So it's just kind of like a nice kind of parallel to that song. So overall, it's pretty nice first drop. I really like the piano lead kind of paired with the saw waves on the bottom. The piano's a little bit more in the foreground than the saw waves in the drop, but that's okay. At the time, like the kind of bass sounds were more of the emphasis of a lot of like the song. So it's kind of normal for this time. So let's keep going. Alright, so one thing I forgot to mention in the first drop is that there's an ARP that's playing a lot. It goes kind of up and down like the scale. That's kind of like a more traditional Day One sound design sound as well. But so for this, coming back to this break section, is really cool. So actually there's kind of the vocal "We Are Destined," and then it kind of goes into that double time kind of percussion with the piano and the kind of saws playing, which is really cool. It's a little bit more unique for a break section to kind of go back into that double time, which was kind of like in the first drop. So that's definitely pretty interesting. So it's pretty much similar to that first section of the first drop, just in the break section for a little bit. But then there's a lot more glitching in the kind of notation of the saw waves and stuff. And then it's really cool now when it kind of builds up. He kind of has his own vocals kind of almost glitched out as well. It's like he chopped the vocal up, almost like a vocal chop, but like in a very different not very different, but in a kind of different utilization of kind of vocal chopping, which is like a really cool emphasis kind of dropping into the song and kind of building up the tension, because I don't really hear that much percussion building up. There could just be kind of like the kick like last time, but I know there's kind of the white noise sweep into the drop, but that's just a little bit of a different feel from the first kind of break and build up into this second break and build up section. So pretty different. So we'll get into the second drop now. All right, so we're gonna back up in this song into kind of the second drop. So it's a little bit interesting. The structure is a little bit different than a lot of other songs that I've heard within the dubstep genre. So within the second drop, it sounds like the kind of intro into the second drop kind of starts with that kind of wubbing part, which I like to just comment, like, it's really cool how that wub kind of goes along with the chord progression, and then there's kind of that arp kind of playing in the background with the halftime rhythm, and then so that part is similar to the kind of wub section in the first drop, and then the next section is kind of when the piano comes in, which is similar to the end of the first drop, which is really good. But then the other section, kind of the last part of this drop, is really interesting. The piano plays, it almost sounds like it plays an alternate melody, or there's another kind of higher pitch sound thrown in there, which is playing like a different melody. I don't know if like if it's the piano itself or another different sound, kind of they're both kind of playing at the same time, or if the piano melody kind of varied, which is pretty cool. It's pretty interesting because I mean, he has kind of that arp kind of going up and down, almost like a scale, like arpeggiating all the way up and down, and in the background. And then he kind of has these piano leads kind of varying. Almost sounds like the piano's playing, and then like maybe another like lower synth sound kind of within the same frequency range, like lower synth sound and volume, and like they're kind of playing together and something in the lines of that. But it's pretty cool. There's a little bit more variation within that drop, so I like that. And then after that, it just kind of outros with the piano that kind of started in the song, and it's pretty interesting. The outro is not as long as I think the intro, and then it kind of arps. There's kind of like an arp kind of ending the song, which is really cool. So overall, this song is day one song for the Stars. It definitely is a song in a more unique structure, that's for sure. It's a really good song for the time of 2012. It's probably, I would say, the first attempts of making something similar to like a melodic dubstep, but it's a very early version of melodic dubstep. And just some takeaways and things I liked. I always like day one's kind of self-used vocals. I don't know, it makes the song a little more unique and personalized to Day One, since he uses his kind of own vocals and vocoded in a certain way. So you could tell, like, kind of from that, it's his song. And then he had his own kind of sound design sound with the arps and the wubs itself. So that's really cool. And what I didn't realize was with the piano, that also was kind of like a precursor to a style that I like from the artist Drop Tower. He emphasizes the piano in the lead, and I didn't even realize this was the song that maybe kind of influenced me back then, and I didn't even realize it, to liking Drop Tower's style. So that's pretty cool. But the one thing that kind of I didn't realize before was the structure of the song. It's a little bit more unusual than most dubstep songs that I've listened to. It's not in the same standard structure, which isn't bad. It's just a little unusual. Never realized that before. It worked well for the song and the time period. There are probably a couple things, like he could have spaced a couple parts out and maybe varied the drops a little bit more, or figured something out there. But overall, it's a really good song. For the time period of 2012, it's really good. I commended that, because a lot of dubstep within 2011, 2012 was not my favorite. So this song, I remember, was one of my more like songs from the dubstep days of the early Monstercat days. So overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is my review or breakdown for Day One song For the Stars. Thanks Pickle Maniac 7 for recommending this song. It's been a while since I've listened to the song, so it's kind of nice, because I do like the song. It's just, it's been a while, so I haven't listened to the song in quite a while. But just a fun fact, Monstercat for a while had these pins, and you could buy them through the website, and it's kind of like a random selection. And it's kind of funny, because I only bought one pin, and the pin that I got was the 006 Embrace kind of album pin, which is pretty crazy, because like for me, like it was kind of like a culmination of how I started and when I started listening to Monstercat, and how I got into listening to EDM and making kind of electronic music EDM. So it was just kind of like, wow, what are the odds of that? So overall, that's just like a fun fact. But I hope you guys like this video. Comment, like, subscribe. If you guys want to share this video or any APA videos in the future, feel free to. I would love to hit the algorithm somehow and grow this channel, but you know, if you guys would like to help, that would be great. But for now, you know, I'm just going to try and figure out a way to do it my way, but maybe try and see if I can grow this channel a little bit bigger so other people can listen to my reviews. So anyways, I hope you guys like this video, and have a good one. Peace.